My name is Natalie Collins. I'm 34 years old, and for most of my life, my job, officially and unofficially, has been fixing other people's disasters. On paper, I'm an aerospace engineer in Denver. I design guidance systems for satellites, spend my days buried in simulations, math, and failure modes. I get paid to anticipate what can go wrong and quietly make sure it doesn't. Funny thing is, I could predict the trajectory of a satellite down to a fraction of a degree, but somehow I missed the path my own family was on until it collided with me head on. If you're watching this half distracted, folding laundry, or scrolling between apps, thinking, how bad can a family vacation story get? Go pour yourself a drink. This is not about a cruise. This is about the moment I stopped being an ATM with a pulse. It started with a text from my mom. You're not coming to the cruise. Brody's girlfriend needs your cabin. You understand. Family comes first. No greeting. No, hi, honey. No, can we talk about this? Just a decision already made for me. I was sitting in my office, the kind of fluorescent lit box that makes time feel fake, reviewing telemetry data when my phone buzzed. I glanced down, read the message once, frowned, read it again. Then a third time, because my brain kept insisting I'd misunderstood. I hadn't. This was about a Mediterranean cruise I had booked 4 months earlier. 12 days Barcelona to Rome. Every port researched, every excursion meticulously chosen. Top-tier cabins, drink packages, shore excursions, the works. Total cost $18,000. My money, my planning, my last-ditch attempt to create one genuinely good memory with people who had been using me for 2 decades. And now, 72 hours before departure, my mother had effectively uninvited me from my own trip, like I was a bonus feature they'd decided to deselect. Before we go further, you need the context. I've been the family safety net since my mid-20s. Dad's truck needed a new transmission? I picked up the bill. Mom's medical copays stacked up? I covered them. The mortgage was behind, the property taxes overdue, someone's car payment about to go into default. Guess who got the late-night phone call? Me. Always me. Then there's Brody, my older brother, the golden child. If there was applause to be had, it was for him. Brody could screw up a wet dream, and our parents would still find a way to talk about his potential. He bounced between careers like they were TikTok trends: real estate agent, business consultant, crypto advisor, entrepreneur. What he really was, consistently, was unemployed. But at Thanksgiving, he always had a new, impressive-sounding title. Me? I had to earn every scrap of acknowledgement. Straight A's, scholarships, a stable career in a high-pressure field. I bought my own condo. I paid off my own truck. I built an actual life. And somehow, in our family narrative, I was the one who didn't understand how hard Brody had it. 6 months before the cruise mess, Brody had shown up at a family dinner with Miley. She was 26, looked like she'd stepped out of Instagram, and had this way of laughing at his half-baked stories and touching his arm like he was the most fascinating man alive. Within 3 months, she was pregnant. My parents reacted like it was the second coming. Dad cried. Mom started planning baby showers before I'd even learned Miley's last name. I did the math. They'd known each other 12 weeks. Miley was already talking about wedding venues and showing off a ring that Brody absolutely could not afford unless his business consulting suddenly paid in gold bars. Spoiler, it didn't. Still, I played nice. I showed up. I brought gifts. I listened to them rave about the new baby on the way and how this will bring the family together. Meanwhile, quietly, over the past 2 years, I had given them $71,000. Not loaned, given. Because every time it was an emergency. Dad's medical scare, Mom's car, Brody's rent while he was between opportunities, Brody's security deposit, his car payment, the engagement ring he told me he needed for a business license before I saw it gleaming on Miley's finger. I kept a spreadsheet. Call me petty, but I'm an engineer. I like data. And the data said I was being milked dry. The breaking point wasn't dramatic. No big blowout. It was a slow accumulation of resentment I kept smothered under being a good daughter until it hardened into something else. That's when I had the idea for the cruise. If I was going to keep spending my money on them, what if, just once, it bought something besides another month of their bills? What if it bought a real memory? So I planned it. 12 days in the Mediterranean. Barcelona to Rome, with stops in Monaco, Corsica, the Greek islands. I picked cabins with balconies so Mom could drink coffee staring at actual ocean instead of the home shopping network. I added drink packages so Dad wouldn't complain about prices. I booked shore excursions I knew they'd brag about to everyone at church. I researched for 6 weeks. I booked everything in my name. I sent out the invitations 4 months in advance. Mom cried on the phone. Dad called me princess for the first time in years. Brody sent a thumbs up emoji and texted, "Can Miley come too? She's basically family now." I said yes. Of course I did. I upgraded to a bigger cabin so they could have space. I added Miley to every reservation. For a while, I let myself be excited. I bought new clothes, downloaded Spanish and Italian language apps, took time off work. I let myself imagine us actually laughing together, not just fighting over money. Then Tuesday happened. That text from my mom landed on my screen like a slap. "You're not coming to the cruise. Brody's girlfriend needs your cabin. You understand. Family comes first." I stared at it, waiting for some kind of follow-up. A just kidding, a winky face, anything. Nothing. I called her. "Oh, good, you got my message," she said, bright and breezy, like we were discussing dinner reservations instead of throwing away my $18,500. "What do you mean I'm not coming?" I asked. There was a pause, the kind where you can tell the person on the other end is already annoyed you're not complying. "Well, Natalie, you're just one person," she said. "Miley's pregnancy has been difficult. She needs the extra space. You know how pregnant women are. It's only fair. Brody has responsibilities now. You're flexible." "Flexible," I repeated, "like a yoga mat." "Don't be sarcastic," she snapped. "You're single. You don't have kids. You can travel anytime. This is about priorities. Brody is starting a family." Aww. "I paid for the entire trip, Mom," I said, keeping my voice level. "Every cabin, every excursion, every insurance policy. Me. No help from you, no help from Dad. Certainly no help from Brody." "Yes, and that's very generous. We're all grateful," she said, in the tone of someone explaining basic math to a slow child. "But you offered it as a gift to the family. Miley needs your cabin. Family comes first." "My cabin," I repeated, "on my reservation, on my card, on my booking profile." "Well," she said, her voice going colder, "then transfer it. Put it in Brody's name, or Miley's, whatever the cruise line needs. It would be wasteful to cancel now. You already paid for it." She said wasteful, like I was threatening to burn cash in the street. There was a beat of silence. I realized very clearly that in her mind, this wasn't my trip. It was theirs. I was just the financier who had gotten too attached to her own money. "Here's the thing, Mom," I said. "The reservation is under my name. All of it. If I'm not going, no one is." "Natalie Elise Collins," she snapped, dragging out my full name like a weapon. "You are not canceling this cruise. Brody and Miley need this. Think of the baby." "I am thinking of something," I said. "Enjoy your day, Mom." I hung up. Then I did what I do best. I solved the problem. I called the cruise line, navigated the endless phone tree, and finally got a human. Explained there were family circumstances. Asked about cancellation. "Given that you booked our premium package with full cancellation protection," the rep said, "we can refund 90% of your total cost. The refund will process within 5 to 7 business days." "Please proceed," I said. At 5:47 p.m., I got the confirmation email. The cruise was canceled. All cabins released. All reservations voided. $16,250 heading back to my account. I forwarded the confirmation to the family group chat with one line. "Trips canceled. Lose my number." Then I blocked every single one of them. That night, I ordered Thai food, poured myself a drink, and watched hockey without checking my phone every 5 minutes, waiting for the next crisis. It was the best Tuesday I'd had in years. The fallout started almost immediately. Missed calls from unknown numbers. Emails with subject lines like, "How could you?" and "Call your mother." I set up a filter that sent anything from their addresses into a folder I named Family Circus. And as I watched the unread count climb, something inside me shifted. For the first time in my adult life, I realized, if I could cancel a cruise, I could cancel my role in their script too. That was the day I stopped being their safety net. I had no idea just how ugly they'd get trying to pull me back in. If you've ever lit a match in a dry field, you know that silence right after, the breathless pause before everything catches fire. That was my Wednesday. By 9:00 p.m., the night I canceled the cruise, I had 32 missed calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Different area codes, different prefixes. Brody must have been borrowing phones from everyone within a 10-mile radius. I didn't answer a single one. My email, on the other hand, tried to stage a rebellion. Subject lines: "Please call me back. Your mother is in tears. You selfish little girl. After everything we've done for you. Everything they'd done for me." The irony almost made me choke on my leftover pad thai. I clicked none of them. They all slid neatly into Family Circus, unread and unloved. Thursday morning, I watched the footage from my doorbell camera while I was on the treadmill at the gym. There was Brody pounding on my front door like the police in a crime show. Unshaven, wearing a wrinkled shirt, eyes red. I couldn't tell if it was from crying, drinking, or both. "Natalie, open the door! You can't do this. You ruined everything." He shouted about betrayal, family loyalty. What about the baby? Like some kind of deranged soap opera monologue. My neighbor from across the hall peeked out once, then quietly retreated. I saved the video, not out of nostalgia, for evidence. At work, my coworker Devin leaned over his workstation and squinted at me while we were running diagnostics on a new tracking system. "You seem weirdly cheerful," he said. "Did you hit the lottery or something?" "Better," I said. "I cut off my parasitic relatives." He froze. "Seriously?" I gave him the abridged version. The cruise, the uninviting, the cancellation, the group chat message. Left out the screaming from my front door. That was dessert. Devin let out a low whistle. "Damn, that's cold-blooded," he said. Then he smiled. "Also efficient as hell. Your family must be losing their minds." "That's the point," I said. He nodded slowly. "Good for you. My little sister did the same thing with our mom. Best decision she ever made. Sometimes you have to cut the dead weight to stay afloat." His casual, matter-of-fact tone settled something in me. For years, I'd been carrying this idea that family automatically justified everything, that blood obligated me to drain myself dry. Turns out, no, apparently you're allowed to choose you. For about 24 hours, things were just noisy. Angry emails, missed calls, blocked numbers trying again from different phones. Annoying, but predictable. Then Monday happened. I was sitting in my office, going over satellite telemetry data, half listening to a podcast about avalanche survival, when my phone rang. Unknown Colorado number. Normally, that went straight to voicemail. But something in my gut said, "Answer it." "Hello? Ms. Collins, this is Rebecca from First Security Bank," a professional voice said. "We're calling about a joint account in your name. The account is currently overdrawn by $11,240. We've been trying to reach you for 6 weeks." My stomach dropped so hard I could practically hear it. "I don't have a joint account," I said. "Certainly not one that's overdrawn." There was a rustle of papers on her end. "It's a checking account opened 4 months ago, with you and a Brody Collins listed as co-owners. We have your signature on the application and—" "Stop," I said. My voice came out sharper than I intended. "You don't have my signature. You have a forgery." Silence. "Ms. Collins, our records—" "Email me everything," I said. "The application, statements, contact information, all of it. If I don't have them in my inbox within 2 hours, I will file a police report for identity theft, and you can explain to the detective why your verification process missed it." To her credit, Rebecca recovered quickly. "Understood, ma'am. I'll have those documents sent right away." I hung up and just sat there for a second, staring at the wall. I always knew Brody was reckless. I knew he was lazy with money and generous with other people's wallets. But forging my signature to open a joint account, then overdrawing it by $11,000? That wasn't golden child with bad habits. That was a crime. 90 minutes later, the email came through. I opened the attached PDF and scrolled. There it was. Neat, practiced letters simulating my handwriting. My name. My social security number. But the phone number? Not mine. The email? Some Gmail address I'd never seen. The address? A random apartment across town. He'd been clever. Clever enough to almost get away with it. He'd used my identity to prop up whatever scheme he was executing in the background, then let the whole thing crash. Straight into my credit. I felt something inside me go from simmer to burn. They weren't just using me anymore. They were trying to break me. I Googled financial fraud lawyer Denver and skimmed reviews until one name came up over and over, Claudia Marquez. Her hourly rate made my teeth hurt. I called anyway. An hour later, I was sitting in a tidy office with framed degrees on the wall, across from a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a legal pad. "Walk me through it," she said. I did. Start to finish. The cruise. The financial history. the spreadsheet, the bank call, the forged signature, the overdraft. She flipped through the printed bank documents in silence, only nodding now and then. When she was done, she set them down and steepled her fingers. "This," she said, "is textbook identity theft. Your brother forged your signature to open a credit facility in your name. The bank absolutely should have caught some of these inconsistencies, but they didn't, so now we handle it." "So what are my options?" I asked. "Criminal and civil," she said. "Criminal. You file a police report. The DA may choose to prosecute. Civil. We go after your brother and possibly the bank, depending on how negligent they were." My chest felt tight. "He's still my brother," I said automatically, and hated myself for the reflex. Claudia's expression didn't soften. "Siblings are the most common perpetrators of family-related financial abuse," she said. "Blood doesn't change the law. What he did is illegal." I stared at the forged signature again. Perfectly imperfect. Familiar in a way that made my skin crawl. I remembered the teenage years, when Brody used to practice copying my handwriting as a joke to sign hall passes. Apparently, he'd evolved. "What do you recommend?" I asked. She didn't hesitate. "File a police report, immediately. You need a formal record that you did not authorize this account. Meanwhile, I'll send cease and desist letters to your entire family. Any further contact gets documented as harassment." "What about the $71,000? The question slipped out before I could stop it. "Is there any way to—" "You could sue for recovery," she said. "But family court is a nightmare, and you're unlikely to get clean closure. It means depositions, mediation, maybe trial. Which means your family gets to be in your orbit for months or years." I pictured my mother wailing in a courtroom, Brody playing the misunderstood victim, Miley rubbing her stomach and talking about the baby, Dad looking disappointed, like I'd personally invented selfishness. "No, absolutely not." Claudia watched my face. "My advice?" she said gently. "Consider that $71,000 an expensive education. Learn from it. Don't repeat it. But don't spend more time or emotional energy chasing it. Focus on stopping the current damage." I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. It came out shaky and a little bitter. "Okay," I said. "We file the report, we send the letters." "Smart choice." She slid a form across the desk. "My retainer is $5,000. We'll start with the fraud case and the cease and desists. If your family continues to escalate, we'll talk restraining orders." $5,000 to protect myself from the people I'd already given $71,000 to. The irony tasted awful, but when I signed the retainer agreement, something loosened in my chest. For the first time, I wasn't just reacting. I wasn't just sending money, caving, appeasing, smoothing things over. I was fighting back. When I stepped out onto the sidewalk after that meeting, Denver looked exactly the same. Same traffic, same noise, same anonymous lines of people rushing to wherever they thought they needed to be. But inside my head, the geometry of my life had changed. They thought they could uninvite me from a cruise I paid for. They thought they could use my name, my credit, my life like a spare key. They were about to learn what happens when you treat an aerospace engineer like a doormat. She starts calculating exit trajectories. And this time, they weren't coming along for the ride. Some people imagine going no contact as flipping a switch. You block a few numbers, mute a group chat, pour a glass of wine, and voila, freedom. Reality? It's paperwork, police reports, constant vigilance, and learning the hard way that toxic people don't respect boundaries. They test them. The morning after signing with Claudia, I walked into the Denver Police Department, holding a folder so thick it could have stunned an ox. Bank statements, screenshots, the forged signature, everything. The detective assigned to financial crimes as looked like every grizzled cop stereotype rolled into one. Late 50s, gray mustache, permanent frown, coffee mug that said "World's Okayest Detective." "All right, Ms. Collins," he said, flipping through the documents. "This your signature?" "Absolutely not," he grunted. "Yeah, I didn't think so. Whoever did this practiced. Seen this kind of thing from relatives before." I blinked. "Before?" "Oh, yeah," he said conversationally, as if we were discussing grocery prices. "Most identity theft cases we see are family members. Parents stealing kids' info, siblings stealing siblings, cousins, exes, you name it." He shook his head. "People think DNA is a personality trait. It's not." He typed up my statement, handed me a case number, and told me the DA's office would review it. Walking out of that station felt surreal, like I'd just reported a stranger, not my own brother. But that's the thing about boundaries. Once you draw them, you start seeing who people really are on the other side. The first line of defense. Claudia moved fast. By Wednesday afternoon, she'd sent cease and desist letters to my parents, Brody, Miley, because of course we had to include her. She'd already tried to wedge herself into every conversation. Each letter was sent certified mail with return receipts required. Once they signed for these, Claudia said over the phone, any further contact, including emotional manipulation, threats, or indirect attempts, is actionable harassment. Indirect attempts? I repeated. Oh, you'd be surprised how creative people get. I wasn't. Not anymore. And then the receipts came back. Friday morning. Mom and Dad signed at 9:30 a.m. Brody at 2:15 p.m. Miley the next Monday. The moment I saw the digital signatures, a strange weight pressed into my chest. This was real, legal, documented. The bridge wasn't just burned, it was cordoned off. But my family, they saw that as a challenge. Brody tests the line. Wednesday, a week later, I was at the gym. Bench pressing, earbuds in, mind blissfully empty for the first time in months. In the mirror, I saw him. Brody. He looked worse than the last time. Sunken eyes, wrinkled shirt, posture screaming defeat. I deliberately didn't react. Finished my set, racked the weights, pulled out my phone and hit record before standing up. He stormed toward me. You got served, I said calmly. You're not allowed to contact me. Leave now, or I call the cops. We need to talk, he snapped. No, we don't. And just so we're both clear, I'm recording this. You ruined everything, he hissed. Mom's in the hospital because of you. I raised an eyebrow. Really? He hesitated. I said, funny, because I called the hospital this morning. She had a routine checkup. His face flickered. Shock, then shame, then something uglier. You actually called to check? He said, voice cracking. Of course I did. I don't take anything you say at face value. He swore under his breath, spun around, and stormed out. I sent the video to Claudia before he even reached the parking lot. Her response came 60 seconds later. Perfect. Violation number 2. Document everything. And so I did, locking down my life. The next 2 weeks were a blur of cybersecurity hell and emotional detox. I closed my accounts at First Security Bank, opened accounts at a credit union with strict ID verification, changed passwords on everything, added 2-factor authentication, flagged my medical records requiring in-person approval, put alerts on my credit report, notified my dentist, gym, utility companies, and employer that no one could request information on my behalf. It was like going into witness protection, except the people I was hiding from shared my last name. But the strangest part? The silence. For years, every buzz on my phone meant panic. Some new emergency, another financial crisis, another plea for help. Now, notifications were normal. Devin texting. Range this weekend? Chris from college asking, Broncos game Sunday? The hiking group. Trail confirmed. Meet at 7 a.m. I didn't realize how addicted I'd been to dread until it was gone. The beginner on the mat. That's how I found myself stepping onto a Brazilian jiu-jitsu mat for the first time in my life. The instructor, Rodrigo, looked like a carved statue with a pulse. He paired me with a 140-pound white belt. Just flow roll, he said. Nice and easy. 30 seconds later, I was being choked by what felt like a polite human anaconda. I tapped. He let go. Rodrigo yelled, "Good!" This happened 6 more times. Humbling didn't begin to cover it. My ego needed CPR, but I kept going back. There was something cleansing about it. On the mat, nobody cared about my family drama, my job, or my bank accounts. They cared about technique, leverage, breathing, about learning to escape when someone twice your size tries to crush you. It felt metaphorical, and also extremely literal because I couldn't breathe half the time. A new kind of community. Then came the cigar club. A group of men, finance guys, lawyers, an EMT, a brewer, who met monthly in a downtown lounge to smoke good cigars and argue about everything except their problems. At my first meeting, I mentioned I'd cut off my family. Expected judgment. Instead, the lawyer, Tom, nodded like I'd told him I bought a new blender. Smart, he said. Did the same thing with my brother. Best decision of my life. Turns out half the room had cut off at least one toxic family member. We didn't trauma dump. We just acknowledged it, clinked glasses, and moved on. For the first time in years, I felt like I belonged somewhere without having to be useful. 6 weeks of no contact. That's when I knew. I wasn't just surviving without my family. I was living. I bought furniture I liked. Walnut dining table, bar stools, rearranged my condo, framed photos from my past hikes, bought a nicer coffee machine. I started meal prepping like one of those Instagram fitness influencers who has their life together. I said yes to things. Happy hours, weekend camping trips, random Tuesday dinners. I stopped worrying whether mom would call crying or Brody needed rent. The invisible leash snapped. The trip that changed everything. 2 months after canceling the cruise, I booked a 3-week solo trip to New Zealand. Hiking, fly fishing, maybe bungee jumping. Wayne, the travel agent, was a grizzled older man who'd been to New Zealand 20 times. First solo trip, he asked? Yep. He smiled warmly. You'll love it, he said. You learn who you really are when no one else is around to tell you. I didn't understand how true that would be. Not yet, but I was about to find out. There's a certain peace in being unreachable, and a certain panic, apparently, in realizing you can't reach the person you've always controlled. My family did not handle it well. When they couldn't get to me directly, they started trying to slip through the cracks of my life like water seeping under a locked door, or like mold. And just like mold, they flourished in dark corners, unless someone sprayed them with bleach. Fortunately, Claudia was industrial-strength bleach. New Zealand. A life without a leash. 3 months after the cruise incident, I was standing thigh-deep in a river outside Queenstown, trying not to fall as a granite-jawed fly-fishing guide named Owen pointed at a riffle in the current. See that seam, he said? Drop your fly there. I cast. The line unfurled in a perfect arc I absolutely did not deserve. 3 seconds later, a rainbow trout hit the fly hard enough to jolt my spine. 20 minutes later, shaking with adrenaline, I released a fish I never thought I'd catch in a country I never thought I'd visit alone. Owen slapped my shoulder. Natural talent, he said. Dangerous with practice. That night, I posted a photo of the mountains at sunset. Violet clouds, glacier-carved peaks, a river that looked like liquid steel. The caption was simple. Finally found what I was looking for. The comments came from friends, coworkers, my jiu-jitsu training partners. None from my family. Perfect. Back in Denver, the life I chose, coming home didn't feel like returning. It felt like beginning. I got a promotion at work, senior systems engineer, leadership track. A year ago, I would have hesitated, worried about family emergencies pulling me away. Now? I said yes with zero hesitation. I joined a shooting league at the range, started meal prepping like someone who actually reads nutrition labels, hiked every weekend. And then there was Cade. We met at a mountaineering skills class in Boulder. He was a civil engineer who climbed for fun and spoke to me like I was a whole human being, not a utility. Smart, calm, kind eyes. No chaos orbiting him. I didn't know what the relationship would become, but for once, I wasn't afraid of possibilities. My life felt like a room I'd cleaned out for years, and finally opened the windows to. But darkness has a way of trying to crawl back in. The harassment begins, but smarter this time. At first, it was little things. A flood of LinkedIn connection requests from profiles with no history. Facebook friend requests from accounts with one photo and suspiciously few friends. Someone tried to log into my Netflix account. My gym called. Someone had phoned pretending to be me, asking what times I usually trained. My dentist called. Someone attempted to transfer my medical records. Every attempt was the same pattern. Testing gates, looking for weaknesses, trying to insert themselves into my life sideways like termites finding a crack in a foundation. I documented everything and added it to the folder Claudia jokingly named. Natalie versus the Circus, Evidence Exhibit AZ. Most people don't think to track this, she said. You're building a case file the FBI would frame. I wasn't proud. I was tired. But prepared. The public shaming attempt. Then came Mrs. Callahan. I was at RE buying new hiking boots when I heard my name. Natalie Collins! I turned. There she was, 70 years old, church-going, floral blouse, and the exact blend of pity and judgment I'd expected. I heard what you did to your family, she said, lips pursed. Your mother told me everything. Here we go. Did she tell you about the $71,000 I gave them? I asked calmly. Mrs. Callahan blinked. Well, no, but... Did she mention that my brother committed identity theft using my social security number? No. Or that they uninvited me from a cruise I paid for? That they demanded I hand over my cabin to a woman I barely knew? A flush rose on her cheeks. I'm sure there are two sides. There are, I said. Mine has documentation. Hers has theatrics. I grabbed my boots and left. For the first time, I didn't feel guilty. Just done. The heart attack lie. 6 months after the canceled cruise, I got an email from Dad. Subject line. Important, please read. Against my better judgment, I opened it. He wrote, Your mother is in the hospital. Chest pain. Possible heart attack. She is asking for you. Whatever happened between us, she's still your mother. The old version of me, would have dropped everything, driven across town, paid the hospital bill, held her hand. The new version picked up the phone and called the hospital directly. "Hi, I'm calling about a patient, Isabel Collins." The nurse pulled up the chart. "She's stable," the nurse said. "Routine observation for anxiety-related chest pain. No cardiac event. She'll be discharged tomorrow." So Dad had lied, again. I typed 2 words back to him. "She's fine." Then I went to jiu-jitsu, got choked by a blue belt half my size, showered, grabbed dinner with Devin, and didn't think about my family once. More manipulation. New masks. Miley tried again. Different fake Facebook account. Same manipulation script. "Brody is devastated. The stress is affecting my pregnancy. Don't you want to be part of your niece or nephew's life?" Block. Screenshot. Document. Claudia emailed me. Classic triangulation. She's trying to use the unborn baby as emotional leverage. Good call blocking. The silence afterward was eerie, like the moment in a horror movie where the soundtrack cuts out right before something jumps at you. Except this time, what jumped wasn't a monster. It was karma. The news nobody expected. One Friday afternoon, Devin walked into my office holding his phone. "You're not going to believe this," he said. I raised an eyebrow. "Is it about my family? Because at this point, I believe everything." He turned the screen toward me. A local news article. Local man arrested for DUI and domestic disturbance. There was Brody's mugshot. Neighbors had reported yelling. Miley had a visible bruise on her arm. Brody was held on $5,000 bail. I stared at the screen for a full 5 seconds. "Good grief," I murmured. "Think they'll call asking you to bail him out?" Devin asked. "Oh, definitely," I said, "but I'm not answering." I was wrong. They didn't call me. They called someone worse, my employer. And that was the beginning of the storm that would push everything past the point of no return. When toxic people realize they no longer control you, they don't self-reflect, they escalate. They claw, they scramble, they weaponize every tool they have, including shame, lies, and eventually, your livelihood. I just didn't expect them to drag my job into it. HR calls me in. It was a Thursday afternoon. I was reviewing a satellite fault tree analysis when I got an email from HR. "Natalie, please come to conference room 4B. Those are never good words. When I walked in, the HR manager, a calm woman with librarian energy, folded her hands and gave me a sympathetic look. "We received a call today," she said, "from someone claiming to be your mother." I closed my eyes, just for a moment. "She insisted there was a family emergency," HR continued. "She wanted to reach you immediately. When we declined to give out information, she became persistent." "I'm so sorry," I said automatically, heat rising in my face. "That's not all," she added softly. "She asked about your salary and whether the company could garnish your wages for family support. She threatened legal action when we refused." For a moment, I just stared at her. "And," the HR manager added, "she repeatedly said you had abandoned your pregnant sister-in-law and only money could fix it." I inhaled slowly through my nose. "Thank you for telling me," I said, "and I'm truly sorry she dragged you into this." "We're not upset with you," she assured, "but I wanted to make sure you're aware of the situation." Situation. What a gentle word for your mother tried to financially enslave you through your workplace. When I left the room, my hands were trembling, but not with fear. With anger. The kind of anger that clarifies things instead of clouding them. I called Claudia the second I hit the parking garage. "She contacted your employer?" Claudia said, voice sharpening. "Oh, she's escalating. This is harassment and interference with employment. We'll send a second cease and desist, this one with teeth." "Good," I said. "Send fangs too, if you have them." The call from jail. That evening my phone rang. Unknown number. I should have ignored it, but something made me answer. "Hello? Natalie, it's me," a voice said. "Brody." I closed my eyes. "How did you get this number?" He dodged. "It doesn't matter. Listen, I'm in a bad spot." "What do you want?" I said flatly. I need $5,000 for bail. Miley isn't answering. Mom and Dad don't have it. I know things have been rough between us, but—" "No," I said. He blinked audibly. "Just like that? No?" "You committed identity theft using my social security number," I said. "You forged my signature. You've harassed me. You violated a cease and desist order. Twice. And now you want me to pay for your bail? I'll pay you back." "Like you paid back the $71,000, I said. Silence. "Brody," I continued, "you don't want a sister. You want an ATM, and this ATM is permanently out of service." There was a long, broken inhale. "You're heartless," he whispered. "No," I said, "I'm healed." I hung up, blocked the number, sent the call log to Claudia. Her reply came instantly. "Perfect. We now have grounds for a formal restraining order. I'll file tomorrow." I slept like a baby that night. The public meltdown. 3 days later, Devin walked into the lab looking like he'd swallowed a plot twist. "You need to see this," he said, handing me his phone. It was a Facebook post from Miley. Public, long, dramatic. She wrote, "Brody has been abusive and controlling. I'm pregnant and alone. He ruined our lives. I'm trying to be strong for my baby." But the comments. Oh, the comments. Some guy wrote, "Didn't you cheat on him? Pretty sure that kid isn't even his." Miley replied, "That's a lie from jealous people." Then a woman chimed in, "Girl, I saw you with Tyler at the casino multiple times." Then another, "Timeline not adding up. You were with Tyler before you got pregnant." And another, "Brody's not the father, everyone knows." I stared at the screen. "She cheated on him before the pregnancy," I said quietly. "So the baby might not be his," Devin finished. "Yeah, that's what the comments are saying." It was a strange feeling. Not satisfaction, not pity, just clarity. The house of cards had finally collapsed, and none of it was my doing. Legal consequences for Brody. A month later, Claudia called. "The DA is pursuing the fraud case. Brody is being charged with identity theft. Trial in 2 months. They will want you to testify." "Absolutely," I said. Restraining orders were granted against Brody, Mom, Dad, Miley. No contact, no third-party communication, no being within 500 feet of me. My boundaries had gone from emotional to legal, and it felt incredible. My life blossoms in their absence. In the months that followed, I led a new next-gen satellite tracking project. Booked a 2-week trip to Alaska, fly fishing, hiking, caribou hunt. Built a circle of friends who never asked me for money. Ate dinner with Cade after climbing sessions. Took weekend trips with hiking groups. Laughed, smiled so often it felt unfamiliar at first. Saved more money in 1 year than the previous 5 combined. Bought a fully loaded Ram 2500 diesel because I wanted it, and for no other reason. I had created a life completely untouched by the gravitational pull of my family's dysfunction. Then another paper bomb dropped. A letter from Brody's bankruptcy lawyer. He listed the debts being discharged, including my $71,000. Attached was a handwritten note from Brody. "Hope you're satisfied. You destroyed this family. Miley left me. The baby isn't mine. Mom won't talk to me. Dad's disappointed. All because you couldn't be there when I needed you. Some sister you turned out to be." I read it once, then fed it through my shredder. Brody still didn't get it. None of them did. You can't destroy a family that was never whole. You can only stop holding it up. The trial, the closure, the new life. The fraud trial wrapped 6 months after I canceled the cruise. Brody was convicted. 18 months probation. Court-ordered restitution of $11,240, $200 a month for 5 years. I'll believe it when I see it. Mom tried sending a letter to my workplace afterward. Claudia intercepted it, sent another cease and desist. Dad had a minor stroke a few months later. I found out because someone at church posted asking for prayers. I didn't call, I didn't visit, and I didn't feel guilty. People imagine estrangement as hatred, but it's not. It's neutrality. It's quiet. It's finally having your mind back. And then, the final doorstep. 10 months after the cruise incident, just when I thought the saga was done, my doorbell rang. The camera activated. And there he was. Brody. Thin, hollow-eyed, clothes hanging off him, looking like every bridge he'd burned had finally caught up to him. He was violating the restraining order by just being there. I grabbed my phone, hit record, opened the door, but stayed in the doorway behind the legal line. "You're violating a restraining order," I said. "You have 60 seconds before I call the police." "Natalie, please," he said, voice breaking. "I need to talk to you." 55. "I know I screwed up. I know I was a horrible brother. I know I hurt you, but I'm drowning." 50. "Miley left me. The baby's not mine. Mom won't talk to me. Dad barely looks at me. I'm living in my truck. I lost my apartment. I just need..." 45. "Please," he whispered. "I just need $500 to get back on my feet. I swear I'll pay you back this time." "Like you paid back the $71,000, I said. He winced like I'd hit him. "You're my sister," he murmured. "You're supposed to help me." I held his gaze. "No," I said softly but firmly. "I was supposed to help myself, and I finally did." He looked at me, the real me, for the first time in his life, and saw a door he could never open again. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I just said, "Leave my property. Figure out your own life. Do not ever try to contact me again." Something in him broke then. I saw it in his eyes. He turned, walked to a beat-up Toyota I didn't recognize, and drove off. I closed the door, locked it, let out a breath that felt 10 years long, made dinner, opened a good bottle of wine. sat on my balcony watching the sun sink behind the mountains. My phone was silent. For the first time in my life, that silence wasn't loneliness. It was freedom. There's a moment, after years of chaos, guilt, and manipulation, when peace finally stops feeling like a temporary vacation and starts feeling like home. That was the year after the cruise. Everything in my life had shifted into a new gravity. I wasn't surviving anymore. I was genuinely living. And the strangest truth, when you stop carrying the weight of people who refuse to walk on their own, your world becomes weightless. But peace always gets its final test. Always. The fraud trial, the last thread snaps. 16 months after the cruise fiasco, the fraud case went to trial. I showed up in a clean navy dress, hair pulled back, evidence folder neatly organized, every forged signature, every overdrafted transaction, every bank communication in chronological order. Brody sat at the defense table. He didn't look at me once. When I took the stand, the questions were simple. Did you authorize this account? No. Is this your signature? Absolutely not. Did you give your brother permission to use your social security number? Never. My voice didn't shake, not once. I had lived the truth too long to tremble telling it. When the verdict came back, guilty of identity theft and fraud, Brody's shoulders sagged, like he hadn't expected consequences to apply to him. 18 months probation. Mandatory restitution of $11,240 at $200 a month. Financial monitoring. Would he actually pay? Probably not. But the conviction mattered. It meant the universe, for once, agreed with me. Mom tries one last letter. A week later, a letter arrived addressed to my workplace. She didn't even try to hide it. She wrote, Natalie, this has gone far enough. You're tearing the family apart. Your father is disappointed. Brody needs you. I need you. We raised you better than this. I didn't read the rest. I handed it straight to Claudia. She's violating the restraining order by attempting contact with you via your employer, Claudia said. I'll issue another cease and desist and prepare for escalation if needed. Every step my mother took toward me now had legal consequences. I think that scared her. Or maybe she simply ran out of angles. Either way, the letter stopped. Dad's stroke. The moment I expected to break, but didn't. 4 months later, Dad had a minor stroke. I didn't hear from him. I didn't hear from Mom. I didn't hear from Brody. I heard from Mrs. Callahan, who posted on Facebook, "Prayers for our dear friend Howard Collins, recovering in the hospital." The old version of me would have driven there immediately. The version of me shaped by boundaries and therapy and hard-won peace. She simply paused, noted the update, and went on with her day. Dad recovered fine. He didn't contact me. I didn't contact him. And for the first time in my life, that didn't feel cruel. It felt accurate. People who never showed up for you don't get to demand your presence at their lowest. That isn't family. That's entitlement. A life without chaos. My life kept expanding into all the space they once took up. I got stronger at jiu-jitsu, earned 2 stripes on my white belt. Finally hiked the Manitou Incline in under an hour. Saved more money in 1 year than in the previous 4 combined. Kate and I grew quietly close. Steady, warm, no chaos, no demands. My home felt like mine. My mind felt like mine. My future felt like mine. It was peace so profound I sometimes didn't recognize myself. But peace has a way of revealing the truth. You don't owe people who constantly hurt you access to the parts of you that healed without them. I thought that would be the end. I was wrong. The final confrontation arrived not with a phone call, not with a letter, not with legal paperwork, but with a knock. The doorbell, and the final test. It was a Tuesday evening, summer, warm, quiet, golden light spilling across my living room. My doorbell chimed. I glanced at the camera feed. My breath stilled. Brody. He looked wrecked. 30 pounds lighter, cheeks sunken, eyes hollow, ringed with exhaustion, clothes wrinkled and dirty. He stood on my porch like a ghost who'd forgotten where he belonged. He was already violating the restraining order by being within 500 feet of me. I grabbed my phone, hit record, opened the door, but stayed firmly in the doorway, inside my property line. "You're violating a restraining order," I said calmly. "You have 60 seconds before I call the police." He didn't flinch, he didn't posture, he didn't yell. He just looked broken. "Natalie," he whispered, "please." 55. "I know I screwed up," he said. "I know I was a terrible brother. I know I hurt you." 50. "Miley left me," he said quietly. "The baby's not mine. DNA test confirmed it." My stomach didn't drop. My heart didn't ache. I felt nothing. 45, I said. "I'm living in my truck," he continued, voice cracking. "I lost my apartment. Mom and Dad won't talk to me. I'm out of options." 40. "I just need..." He swallowed hard. I just need $500 to get back on my feet. Just enough to get a room, a meal, please. 35. I swear I'll pay you back. I swear I'll change. I swear. Brody, I said, voice level, steady, unwavering. You swore before. His mouth closed. Silence. You are not my responsibility, I said. You made your choices. You live with them. Empathy flickered in him for a moment, quickly replaced by desperation. You're my sister, he said. As your brother, I'm asking... No, I cut in. As your former doormat, I'm saying no. He stared at me like he didn't recognize the woman standing in front of him. Maybe he didn't. Because the old me, the girl who paid every bill, answered every crying call, forgave every lie, was gone. Replaced by someone who finally understood. You can mourn the family you wanted while protecting yourself from the family you have. Leave my property, I said, and don't ever come back. His lip trembled. He looked down, defeated. Then he turned and walked toward a beat-up Toyota parked crookedly at the curb. I watched him drive away. Not with triumph, not with guilt. Just finality. A chapter closing itself. The end of their story, and the beginning of mine. I shut the door, locked it, exhaled a breath that felt older than I was. Then I made dinner, opened a bottle of wine I'd been saving. Sat on my balcony as the sun dipped behind the Rockies, staining the sky blood orange and violet. My phone was silent. My mind was quiet. My life was mine. I raised my glass to boundaries, to resilience, to self-respect, to peace, to the woman I became when I finally decided I deserved better. And to anyone watching who's ever had to cut off a family member to save yourself, hit that hype button, because your story deserves to blow up too.